Good afternoon, good evening. Welcome again to another stream of the recent days. I'm very happy so that you are here with me and welcome again. So as promised, I hope I'm on time. And let's delve a little bit into the mysteries of magic, occult literature, and things that I think interest all of you, including me. So hello, and I want to say special welcome to some known faces. Mia, nice to see you, or nice to speak to you again, or have you here. Vegetable Farm, Tia, Tyrant King, JM, you are all welcome. Yeah. So, without further ado, as I understand that the time is of the essence, and if you have seen my last stream, about Aleister Crowley's The Book of Law, if you haven't seen it, maybe you can check it. It's, I think, quite good, but it was a little bit long. It took 1.5 hours, and I would like to be a little bit on time. So, as these sessions should be around 1 hour, I have prepared for you a specific topic today, uh, because for some time I was thinking, like, maybe there is, why not to look at the not on the grimoires as such, because always I discuss a lot of grimoires in the medieval times, but the grimoires were written mostly by the clergy. We know that already. They were done in secrets, a lot of rituals being copied, paste from Arabic literature, Old Greek, PGM, means practically Greek Pnakotic manuscripts. And but these books are only one side of the coin. By the 14th century, when church or Christian church or Catholic church is undergoing a lot of complicated schismas. By schisms, we mean that there are a lot of. It was also in the previous time, in the earlier time of the Christianity, there were Gnostics and so on. But as the humanity, mostly in the Western Europe and later on also in America, is undergoing a scientific development, there are many people that are just not agreeing totally with the dogmatic teachings of the church. And also within the theological disputes, there are a lot of people that are even going against so-called scholars like Thomas Aquinas or Saint Augustine, that really thought that they have found out the some proof of God's existence. Yeah, so there are a lot of disputes going on. It's not yet. We are in the time of Renaissance, of course. We are not going only through. There is even atheism growing within the communities, and the church, of course, reacts in a very strong way, trying to suppress such thoughts. And later on, we know there is a 30 years old war that where practically the Protestantic movements are in the 17th century later, but even in the 15th, 16th century. I'm coming from Czech Republic. Do you have a lot of movements against the church? As you have so-called Hussites or Hussites that are really in open warfare against the church. So there is a lot of things going on in the medieval Europe. The Europe is restless. The church reacts quite aggressively. And in very strong domains of church, you have Spain, of course, you have Italy. Italy is divided into many states, papal states, Medici's cities, and so on. So, and also it starts to split between the Protestantism and papacy. Yeah, but all of these church as such, or Christianity, is very strong in Europe, and all dissent is suppressed. In papal states, it's suppressed by the creation of Inquisition. but in countries like Germany or German states, Bavaria is Catholic, but let's say Prussia state, the states of in England, in Scotland, uh, there is a very strong Protestantic movement that is creating so-called witch hunts, who are and this Inquisition and these church representatives that try to suppress all of these, or even from political meanings. They want to eliminate their political enemies. So they judge them. They say that they are wizards, they are witches, and so on. uh, there is an ongoing situation about the different approach to the sexuality. It's still not the situation where women are fighting for their rights, but a lot of women that are independent or living not with their husband or are being targeted by the populace. And the easiest way is to practically find them guilty of the witchery. And between the populace, there are a lot of grimoires that start to be printed in the 16th century in these cheap prints. But there are a lot of books that are written by the Inquisition. I will not speak about the most famous one. Probably someday later, if the topic will interest you, so-called Malleus Maleficarum, Hammer on the Witches. That is created by two Dominican friars and becomes the handbook of the Inquisition, mostly in Spain, but also in the southern states of Europe. But I would like to speak about the second famous book or handbook for the witch hunters, or for the Protestant clergy, that was prevalent mostly in Scotland and England in 16th century. Why is such book important for us or interesting for us as a magicians? Because we can see this book is matching or trying to describe the judicial trials of the witches, that they are put under torture, and Inquisition is asking them the questions about Lucifer, about Satan, about demons, how they work, how they operate, what are the rituals, what are the Black Sabbath, how it works. And of course, many times practically the people that are put under the torture, they say practically everything what the Protestant clergy at that time wanted to hear. But why this specific book called the Demonology is interesting is that the author of the book is the king itself. King James the Sixth was the king of Scotland, and later on became the king of England, and is coronated as the king of the first. Yeah, so those that you are from the United Kingdom, you probably know better. But I know that your history is quite rich, so I will do some recapitulation about this. King James is really an author of this book. And to speak a little bit more about him, I would like to just explain a little bit how he looked like and what was his historical mission at that time. So, looking at the picture of the King James, it's nothing special. You see here he's probably in his 40s, and he was born in 1566. He was, as I said, the king of Scotland, and later on, when the union of English crowns were unified, these crowns were unified in 1603, he became the king of England as well. James was the son of Mary, the Queen of Scots, and great great grandson of Henry VII. Yeah, so also a very famous king. History would probably forgot about James the First, but we know that what made him really famous or infamous is that he is considered one of the hardest hunters of the witches in early, uh, practically early 17th century, and an author of this infamous book called The Demonology of King James. Little bit about the psychology of James before we start to look at the book. James was probably in very difficult situation at the time. The England and Scotland, they were not in the best terms. On the best terms, there was a lot of nobility fighting each other, and James believed, as he was a little bit a person of not very good health. Many say that he also later on married the Danish queen Anne quite late, and many say that he was looking really even like feminine, like the nobility of those times were thinking that James is a homosexual, which was practically a public secret. And but later on, of course, he was wed to, or he was a husband of Queen Anne. I will speak a little bit about Queen Anne, the Queen of Denmark, or the Princess of Denmark, a little bit later, because it has something related to the story about the demons and the history of the book. So James was not very strong warlord, but not very powerful. He could barely walk, and always had to have a help of an assistant that was practically helping him during his walk. He liked to be on the horse, put on the horse, because the horse was practically carrying him, and he was looking more noble-like. But he became quite a good politician at his time because he was intelligent and was literal. He could read very well, was educated on his time, but believed, started to believe in these fantasies that, as many kings have these things of megalomania, that they would like to be something special. And James believed that he is chosen by God and by Christ as his champion knight that is going to fight against Satan, and that he is going to purge England and also Scotland from all witchery that was prevalent in his time, because he believed that the witchery and the Satan is conspiring against him, that there are lodges of black magicians, mostly the nobles that he hated. He was suspicious to them, and he believed that they are conspiring against him. But with the power of God, he will start these witch trials, and later on we'll also find that some of the nobles are also wizards, witches, and should be tortured, burned, killed, and he will be yeah, heavenly victor. Yeah, so that's real. Yeah, the thing later on started in that way that when when James was going to be wed to the Queen Anne, and he visited Denmark. He resided on some witch hunts in Denmark already. So he saw usually the brutal torture, mostly of women, that were put under this these inquisitional proceedings, and he supervised those tortures. So first of all, he was a little bit, due to his education, he was at the beginning a little bit skeptical. He thought that that these witches are not actual witches, but they are just being accused by their neighbors or someone. But as the tortures continued, those victims tried to say everything that pleased James, and he starts to literally believe in the existence of Satan and the existence of witches. And while he is in Denmark, he also is going to be wed to the Queen Anne. He returns back to England, and during the journey, it was in, I think, in 1599, he gets into the huge storm, and his fleet gets into a huge storm, and some of the ships are sunk, and he barely survives. Later on, also the Queen Anne is waiting on the Denmark coast and wants to meet with James in England so the wedding can proceed. And James starts to believe that there is a huge conspiration against him, so he can't birth children, that his right wife will be killed by the agents of Satan, and he starts one of the biggest trials of the medieval time, so-called North Berwick witch trials, which will speak, and I will speak about them a little bit more once I discuss the book, where he tries to find the enemies of his. First, he believes, of course, that the nobility is trying to buy some witches against him, and but during these days, he also writes a book that I have here with me, and I will try to show it to you here. The book can be, this is the original form of the book. It's called Demonology in form of a dialogue. And it's coming from the 1603. So probably during during these trials, North Berwick trials, there is also this book written, which contains information about the powers of the witches and about the powers of the agents of Satan, according to him. So, if you are interested in this book, you don't have to find the book from the 17th century. There is also a new translation that I have read, and it's The Demonology of King James by Donald Tyson. What is interesting is that I get into this book quite recently. I bought it in one old Prague bookstore, which sells also old books. And this book is not so old. It's from 2019, as you can see. And I bought it for a good price, and it was just lying there. But what's interesting about this new book is that it has a lot of pencil connotation by someone that owned this book before me. And I think it was owned by some sort of magician, or maybe not a magician, maybe a priest. And it's interesting to read the book, because the author, the person that owned this book before, is really afraid of demons. He tries to highlight some passages from the book where there are descriptions of the unholy powers of the witches and things like that. And I can see something that so many practitioners have, or those that are working with the occult but just maybe reading about it or have a strange curiosity about it. It's his fear. He has really fear. He is fearing the chapters, the descriptions, and so on. So I understood that the mentality of those people, that of King James, that was afraid of the demons, the people that were doing these trials, they were really afraid of the Satan. They were afraid of the witches. And even now, the book is new, but you see that this fear is prevalent in the society of today. So the mentality hasn't changed. Maybe just the rule changed a little bit. So let's take a look a little bit into the book before I will speak about the trials. Yeah. So the book as such, yeah, it was first published in 1597, and is structured as a dialogue between two fictional characters that met at one place, and they just start to discuss the strange stories from or the strange news from Scotland, because during that time at Scotland there is this ongoing North Berwick process, accusing some witches of trying to kill the king on the sea, yeah, and also Queen Anne. And these two characters are called, I have to, Philomantes and Epistemon. It's nothing new. You practically in it, as James was quite educated, he just tries to copy the way how maybe some dialogues of Plato or Socrates, ancient Greeks, were done. Always some kind of fictional dialogue where they come into some kind of conclusion. So in this dialogue, Philomatis is a little bit, he does not believe in witches as much, yeah. And Epistemon, his friend, who is more versed, more educated in this matter, tries to persuade him and explain him what are the why the witches are really dangerous, and what kind of dangers they can bring to the good Christian. Yeah, so it's a sort of theological dissertation, but it contains a lot of interesting information for us practitioners, and we just look at this from a different side, the side of inquisitors practically. So the book is divided into three books, smaller parts: book one, book two, book three. And it's quite long. It has around 100 pages for that. It's written by King James. In book one, Philomatis and Epistemon start to describe what magic is. Yeah. So and they practically, King James was reading occult literature. He is just not admitting it. The contemporary of King James is Agrippa of Nettesheim, and I believe that he was able to read the book before. So, in this argument, what magic is, he practically copy-pastes some grimoires and says like that the magical arts are divided between necromancy and witchcraft. Yeah, no good magic. Magic is not good according to him. It's only bad. Necromancy, witchcraft, using of charms, circles, and conjurations to work with specific demons. Astrology is a hellish art. Yeah. So the worst thing is that there are two types of magical practitioners, according to him. First are witches, almost all women, and then there are wizards, yeah, or sorcerers. Yeah, sorcerers are worse than witches because he believed that sorcerers are mostly men, and they can read and understand magic in deeper terms, which means they can cause more harm to the society. While witches, why there are so many women in these witches, and why there are maybe 80 or 90% of those that commune with these dark powers are women, is according to him because women are considered a gender, a weaker gender that is easily trapped by sin. Yeah, I spoke about the sin in the Order of Demons session, practically mostly by lust, or by mostly by lust. Yeah, so that's come because he says in later parts that many of these witches are later having sexual acts with the with Satan. Yeah, so probably comes also from his internal fantasies that he might have. Yeah. So also he says that the devil is trying to, but he says interesting thing there, that the devil is trying to contract man according to his abilities. Yeah, this was also something that that was highlighted by this another owner of the book before me. And so he says that the witch is being contacted according to her ability. She probably can't read or something, but the devil is giving her specific powers. And the first power is that he will create a so-called like the sign of the witch on her. Yeah, it means that during the first communion with the devil, he can show himself to her in the form of a really dark man or something. He touches her on some place, on her body, of her body, and the place is this point of her body, it starts to be very painful, and the witch is getting into the very difficult situation for 2 or 3 weeks, has a lot of pain, and then this pain is unbearable, so she starts to ask Satan again to help her with the pain, and he comes back to her and he touches the place again, and the place becomes so-called cold. Yeah, so it does not feel any pain after that. So the inquisitors, when were trying to find out who the witch was, were using a form of torture. They were trying to find a place in the body that maybe a birthmark. It can be a birthmark, but they just saw. They thought that the birthmark is a thing of the devil, and this is starting to be a little bit brutal. But this is not the thing for children. Yeah. So if children are watching this, please, this is not a channel for children. They were using long needles. They put some kind of scarf on the eyes of the witch, so she could not see where they are touching her, and they practically starting to pin the needles into the several birthmark of the body. And when she was screaming, it was okay for them. When she was screaming, oh, it was okay. That's not the spot. But if they found a spot, usually it might be some acupuncturic point. You know, when she was also in shock, that she did not feel the pain when they put the needle into her body, even deep. And when she did not scream, they knew that they thought that they found the devil sign. So in this current situation, if you would have any tattoos or something, you know that you will immediately be considered as a witch or as a sorcerer. So the procedure of finding the mark was very torturous and painful for those accused. And they should have been just accused. If they haven't found anything, but they always found something, they thought that, okay, she was falsely accused, but the God prevented her to be a witch, so that's okay. Yeah, so the torture was practically usually normal. Yeah, so and so this is what the second part of the book is about. Mostly the roles of the Satan, why Satan is trying to work with the witches, what is his purpose. Yeah, so the actions of the Satan he explains on several explanations from the Bible. Yeah, that he says that Satan is practically trying to defame the work of God, that he wants to have something similar to the Holy Communion of the Church, so he wants to have unholy church, and that as believing Christians have their Holy Mass, so there is also this Black Mass where these witches are meeting together with the devil, they are copulating together and having practically just trying to create this devilish mirror of the Holy Communion between the Christians. Yeah, but he also says that it does not have to be physical, because it can be done on because there are specific methods of the transportations and illusions of Satan, so it can be done in the dreams or under some kind of the vision, or if they took some kind of plants, they can have this unholy meeting during that state. Yeah, so that's why they always trying to convict someone that was probably the local lady that helped with the child or some with the birth of the children. They were usually also preyed upon by the church. And in book 3, that is quite interesting for us as well, James says that the demons are under the direct supervision of God and are unable to act without God's permission. Yeah, so this is a little bit strange. Yeah, so but he practically says that yes, God is in his power is allowing Satan and devils to come to the people in various forms and for various purposes. Just but only those are being approached by the devils that are sinful in their hearts. Yeah, so even practically even the connection, not even with the devil or with the demons, was even the accusation was considered that the person is probably of full of sin and should deserve some kind of yeah, painful, should be harmed, or yeah, that these people are practically not Christians. Yeah. And James also in the third book provides a description of the spirits that are not only the devil, but also he tries to categorize the spirits into the four categories or demonic entities that are working with specific methods. Yeah. So there is a specter. These are usually the spirits that trouble houses or solitary places. Yeah? Spectres. Then there are obsessions. These are the spirits that trouble people at various times of the day. And we spoke about those in the previous video, orders of demons, incubi and succubi. Then there are spirits that can possess people inwardly, practically to trouble them. And then there are fairies, illusionary spirits of prophecy, consort, transport, that can transport the servants and so on. So practically the basic categorization of the spirits. I would say that he did not know much about it. He believed in familiars, that the witches can have the familiars in form of birds or frogs, and those he considered demons as well. Yeah. Nicky Welch is writing here that wizards are more educated. According to him, yes. He was attributing men a little bit higher intellect in his time, of course. So he said that those that are wizards are even worse than witches because they sin. Their sin is not maybe the weakness of women, and I'm just trying to say how they understood it. It's not but the weakness of women was lust, but the weakness of sorcerers was pride. Yeah. So they believe that he comes up with the theory that although the magicians like Agrippa of Nettesheim or Paracelsus or so over, whether they think that they can command spirits, they can command demons, this is all not true. This is just an illusion of Satan that is trying to bind you at the end and to do his wish. That even in the ritual or invocation, when the demon is saying, yes, I will do what you say because you have the power over me, it's just a trick because he wants to bring you more into the into his nest of illusion and tricks. At the end, the wizard is able to cause much more harm. Who was this wizard? It was his. It was the nobles. He believed that some of the nobles that were that were, he believed that mostly Scottish nobles that were acting against him. He believed that one of them was even a wizard. Yeah, so and he even accused, I think, one of them. I have to find the name of the person that was accused. It was, but in general, James was very fearful person. Yeah, he feared that he is going to be possessed, that he is going to be that the curse will work on him, and that he will be either poisoned or that the devil he will come to him. So in this book, The Demonology of King James, why this book is, when I was reading it a little bit more, I realized that this book is, compared to the grimoires that we have, it's truly monstrous, because he is saying that what can protect us, the Philomantis is asking again his friend Epistemon. Philomantis is asking, okay, so if these witches and sorcerers are so powerful, uh, and we rightly accuse them of their trespassings, what will protect us against their wrath? If I say that this is a witch and she should go to the trial, what will protect me as a servant of God? And the epistemon replies to him, yes, you have to pray strongly, but the other thing is that you have to be more and more aggressive towards the witches. You have to put them into torture. You have to cause extreme amounts of pain to them, because this is what is demanded by God. And that way, in your holy fury, and in your you will be protected. So he practically tries to break this woman totally. And under the worst torture, I will speak about the torture methods a little bit soon. He believes that the more brutal form of punishment you put on the women, the more protected you are. Also, in King of James, in the book 3, I found a really disturbing sentence where he practically says that it's good if the neighbors are watchful on other neighbors, because they believe that if the witch is going to curse someone, the curse is going to affect that person, and the person might die, or the children or the stock might die, but the curse can be broken if you found the witch, if you put her into torture, and if she submits her crime, then the curse is broken. They believe this. Imagine in medieval times, in 16th century, some village in Scotland or England or Germany, and the the populace was told by the local clergy that uh, someone might be believing, okay, my cow is ill. Probably the neighbors hates my cow because I have it and he does not have it. He is for sure a sorcerer or a witch because he cursed my cow. I will go to the cow. I will go to the authorities and I will say that he is a wizard. And this was happening on daily basis. The people really wanted, in Spain, you could get part of the possessions from the acquitted, or from the people that were trialed. So it was, neighbors wanted to have something, pots or piece of small land. No, land was belonging back to the feudal lord, but a bit of pots, or a cow, or something small, very small thing. And they said to the authorities, yeah, she's a witch for sure. And the procedure was at that time it was so hysterical at the beginning of the 16th century, that practically just the basic accusation was enough to for you to cause to be trialed. And of course they started with the trials, like they started. They believed that the king and the queen were almost drowned when they were when they were like being shipped, when they were using the ships to the coast of England. And there was this Nord Berwick trial. And yes, you are right, Nikki. It caused a lot of death. So I will just speak a little bit about these Nord Berwick witch trials, which are practically one of the biggest trials that ever happened on the old continent. They were even bigger than the Salem trials 100 years later. These Nord Berwick trials happened in 1590, and almost more than 70 people were implicated. These trials ran for 2 years. And why we know so much about them? Because Later issues of this Demonology of King James also consist of an additional pamphlet that is called The News from Scotland. So the news from Scotland is another chapter to this book that described these North Berwick trials, because when the king returned back, he started to accuse people all around the country. He wanted to find the witches. He wanted to put the witches into the torture. So they say. Who paid them? Which noble paid them for his life and the life of his queen? Yeah. Uh, she became his queen later. So they uh, they found out, and from the 70 people, they created a short list, because they believed that at the time James had, and I know the name of the noble now, who was that James thought that he's conspiring against him. The conspiring noble was called Francis Stewart, fifth Earl of Bothwell, and as he was also highborn, uh, James was a little bit afraid that he is going to replace him on the throne. But he also believed that Francis Stewart was everything what James was not. Francis Stewart was strong, muscular, big man, very popular with other knights, with other people. James was scrawny, small guy that really was intellectual, but maybe a little bit evil, if we say, like the person that writes a demonology and starts to accuse women all around the country. So it was also a situation when, so he accused Francis Stewart of high treason against him, but he has no proof. And Francis Stewart, there is a small situation that happens when Francis Stewart learns that he is being accused. He travels to London and demands to meet King James. But James is afraid of Stuart and that he is going to be assassinated. So he hides in his wife chambers. But Francis storms the chambers anyway with a few of his henchmen. And James starts to really covertly scream there that, please, Francis, don't kill me. I know that you are not a wizard. So he was a coward at the end. Yeah, but so Francis Stewart goes back, but the trials. Continue, because James does not want to lose face. Yeah, so he has to find some kind of uh, victim. Yeah, and the victim are the women. Yeah, so uh, in this North Berwick trials, they accuse later on several ladies and also a man. They found they found several men. That they found a wizard at the end. It, I think his name was, no, the woman was Agnes Sampson, Barbara Napier, but the man that they trial is Dr. Fian, and he was a schoolmaster. Yeah, so they found him and they tried to put them under tremendous torture. And they refused to confess. So uh, they found two. There is John Fian, and then there is Agnes Sampson, the wife. Sampson is a elderly woman from a small village, and they are accused, and then they start to first they say that we have nothing related to this. We can't be charged guilty of this. We don't know what you mean, sire. Yeah, and so he puts them under torture, and especially who is tortured mostly is this Agnes Sampson. Yeah, so the torture is brutal. Yeah, and I can quote. Yeah, by special commandment, her head and body hair was shaved, and she was fastened to the wall of her cell, of her cell by a scold's bridle. I will explain what scold's bridle is. Scold's bridle. It's first I will show you how it looked like. Yeah, it was used mostly on the women. Yeah, this is it's form of an iron mask. Yeah, it has four sharp prongs forced into the mouth, so that two prongs are pressed against the tongue, and two others are against the cheeks. And they put this to her. She was kept without sleep and thrown with a rope around her head. And it it this instrument is practically slit into the mouth, and it's pressed down on the top of the tongue, often with a spike on the tongue as a compress. And it functions to silence the wearer from speaking entirely and cause extreme pain and also psychological trauma, to scare and intimidate the wearer into submission. Used mostly on the women, uh, and after very extra humiliation, sometimes they even were putting her, I think, on the street. They put a bell on her, so she was like drawn around the crowds, and the wearer was she was led around the town by a leash. So uh, practically, this was extreme. Yeah, it was extreme. So at the end, she submitted to uh, I think she submitted to 50 53 indictments against her. She said, yes, I did everything. Yeah, she said that she was conspiring. She did not accuse the Francis Stewart, the Earl of Bothwell, but she said that yes, she was conspiring with Satan. She met Satan in the church. She was kissing Satan's buttocks, and that his skin was extremely cold. Yeah, and mm, uh, she was burned at the stake. Yeah, so the burning at the stake is also very painful, because sometimes the person can suffocate from the clouds of the from the woods, but sometimes she is really burned, so it can take a lot of many minutes until the person is practically killed by burning. But as the king was adamant, as he was not able to get the testimony from Agnes Sampson, he accused Dr. Fian. He also was tortured with nails, with hot iron, and he later on, as he was, this was the sorcerer. He implicated the Earl at the end in a supernatural conspiracy, but the position of the Earl was so strong at that time that James was not able to do anything with it. Practically, Francis was really supported uh, by so many nobles that it was put under carpet. So the trials continued for 2 years. Many others were implicated. Gaylis Duncan was implicated. It was the it, she said that she worked with Agnes Sampson, uh, that they were trying to create a storm to drone the fleet of the king. Uh, uh, and yeah, she was used different torture methods were used on her so-called thumb screw. Yeah, these are the crushing bars that are lined with sharp metal points to puncture the nails. So James really sadistically tortured a lot of women at the time. And these later on, the book is practically a statement of how rightful he was. Yeah, so mm, it creates such hysteria that during next practically next century, just in Scotland, practically from the beginning of the 16th century to the end of the uh, 17th century, almost no one knows for sure, but maybe 3 to 4 thousand witches, women, were put into the stake and burning and tortured, and the books that were used for the testimonies that were required to them were according to this book. Practically, they were asking her, "Have you met Satan? Did you kiss his buttocks? Did you uh, have you been conspiring and dreaming on the witch Sabbath with the others? Yeah, who are the other women that work with you?" Yeah, and they were afraid of them. So the King James created this monstrous book just where he's instructing his people, torture them the more and in the worst ways possible, because if you torture them, then you will be protected by the guardian angels, because God's wills it, Deus vult. Yeah, that it's the willing of the God. And yeah, if I look at the book, majority of these things is nonsense. It's compilate of it's just a compilate of some grimoires that were used in that time, and he creates some kind of his own fantasy. That really, what surprised me is the amount of primitivity in this book. Yeah, that it's really, it's pure stupidity. That they believed in these type of things, and they were able to kill so many people. And even now, when you see, sometimes when you look at the comments under my videos, or even other YouTubers, or you sometimes, I had and I will not I will not say the name, but I there was a one nice lady on my Patreon sessions months ago, and she told us once a story that she had a friend, and that she was living with, or being with, and when the person, and they had some discussion about esoterics, and she opened herself. They were just discussing, and he told her that he is a Christian, and she told him, yes, yes, and I am just a witch or something, like in this half jokingly term. He looked at her and he hit her like it from out of nothing. Yeah, they were together. So that the mentality is the same for some people. uh, that's why sometimes, even now, when all of these sayings about religious freedom and so on, yeah, they are, you are free until someone hits you. Yeah, so uh, and yes, like, if you're I totally agree that medieval theologians were really evil. This is the evil. It's not the evil that we want to do our rituals to commune with the spirits, with the energy of the planets, that we want to find our inside. Crowley looking for the hadith, Crowley having sexual fun with, I don't know, with all his coterie of disciples. This is not evil. What is evil is to do such a horrible things that maybe, I think James was maybe trying to fulfill his, just because of the fear, maybe of his sadistic fantasies. Maybe it turned him on somehow, as he was preceding these things. If you are interested about James, how he ended, yeah, yeah, the ending was only the book made him a little bit famous now. Early 1625, James was plagued by severe attacks of arthritis, fainting fits, and fell ill. And we believe that he died in 1625 during a violent attack of dysentery. So probably he catched something. We can say it's some kind of liver disorder, so-called porphyria. It must have been painful. I think he deserved it. Yeah, so that's the story of King James shitting himself unto death. Yeah. Sorry for my language. So that's it about about the story. A little bit out of magic, or not totally magic related, but uh, we like to speak about magic and about these beautiful books. And when you look at the opposite side, you see only stupidity and fanaticism. Yeah, so Demonology of King James is really infamous book. I wouldn't call it a grimoire, but it still is in the minds of some people, together with others like Malleus Maleficarum, the Hammer on the Witches, and others that were made during the 16th, 17th century. Um, in my own country, although I am living in Prague, I'm originally from Slovakia. There were witch trials until 18th century. The These witch trials that King James started, why they are so, I would say, not important. What they brought is that they started something that continued in Puritanism later on. Salem witch trials are practically just the continuation of the witch hunts that King James started in the early 17th century. And there are many others in Europe, also in Germany and so on, but these were one of the most brutal ones. So, some questions. If you ask me if the Demonology of King James contains valid information about the powers of the witches, I would say no. The author that wrote this book is James wrote the book, but Donald Tyson is practically just rephrasing it into modern English. The book is nice to be good to be read, but from the occult point of view, it's something that you can skip. I did it for you. And yes, these things are still happening. Also in Africa, also in South America, we have these so-called witch hunts. We have these. If you, they are the thing in Africa. You have a lot of, but many are accused, yeah, by religious, mostly Christian, Protestantism, Protestantic groups, or Christian Roman Catholic groups. It's the same thing. So if you read this, it brings you to thinking. And if you hear these stories that it happens sometimes, that someone might practically attack you just because of your views, always remember that at the end, magic is esoteric. It's inside. It's something that the more we speak about it outside, maybe we will be not understood as much. So, and the true, these true things that you will get from the communion with the spirits, uh, it's something that you can't share. Maybe I can speak about mine. I will in upcoming sessions about Abrahamian ritual and so on, but your experience might be different. So it can't be put into one book like what the witches are. Those people that torture them know nothing about it. Do I have to buy three books or all three parts in one book? Yes, it's all within this one book. It's just divided into three books. It's called like book one, book two, book three, but it's all in one. So not bad, because where I see the value of this book is not about the demonology of King James as such, but what is interesting here, and we should give some value to the author of this book, Donald Tyson, provide a lot of interesting comments to the book. So he's just trying to explain the myth where James is making mistakes. It's worth as if you are interested into the history of witch hunts and want to. Donald Tyson is doing quite good work here. So the book from Donald Tyson definitely is worth reading. If you will read King James only without Donald Tyson, that's crazy nonsense. So Pope Honorius' book, yes, there are two versions. There is a grimoire of Pope Honorius, and then there is another one. Yeah, so uh, I should do a review of it, maybe later on. Okay, my friends. Uh, Hopefully you liked the review of the Demonology of King James, and we will return to more serious magic topics very soon. I plan to review some more modern books written by modern occultists and modern authors. So probably next time we will be looking into those, as I think it's time to look into the works of the authors from the 21st century, our contemporary authors, because it's everything in life, even magic is developing itself. So have a good day, have a good afternoon, have a good evening. See you later.